Hello and welcome back to the Privett Park Legends Podcast. Today I'm joined by a Boro legend who made 167 appearances for the club, in that time winning 2 successive Hampshire League titles. I welcome Neville Woodd. How are you doing, Neville?
Okay, Sam. Good morning. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. So, it's been a busy weekend at Boro, essentially. Lots of new signings, lots of players re-signing on for next season. 2 particular new players we've got in are Dan Wooden, who has previously been at the club, and Jordan Rose. What do you think of those 2 new signings?
I think they're good signings. I've seen them play a few times over at the Boro in the past, although I only get to probably see 3 or 4 games a season as I'm a Pompey season ticket holder. So my games at the Boro are more limited than they would be otherwise.
Do you think it was important getting in 2 players who, in different ways, know the team? Dan Wooden, who's previously been at the club, and Jordan Rose, who's worked together with Sean Gale and a lot of these other players in the team because they're all ex-Hammond players.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Sean, obviously being an ex-Hammond manager, knows these guys. He knows they're good. And looks like he's on the way to getting a good side up together.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, including players that have re-signed on the likes of Ryan Woodford, Mike Carter, Rory Williams, Matt Patterson and Theo Lewis, also along with Pat Flattery. Do you think keeping that core part of the team that were the best players from last season was so important?
Yeah, I think it's always important to have a core of players that know each other, play together. It's worked well in the past for us, and I'm going back quite a few years now. But yeah, I think it's really important.
Right. So getting on to now your career, what was your first footballing memory?
My first footballing memory, kicking the ball about in the infant school at Stone Lane in Gosport.
Mm-hmm. And so was it, you've mentioned about your Pompey season ticket. Did you go as a kid with anyone particular?
I go with my son-in-law, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had tickets for going on 20 years now.
And was it something that your father introduced to you or grandfather?
My grandfather was a Southampton supporter. So it was quite interesting. But I used to go up there sometimes. He was a season ticket holder. He'd take me up there when his friend couldn't make it. So I'd seen some good guys up there. Got the likes of Ron Davis, Terry Payne in the old days.
So what made you decide to support Portsmouth instead of Southampton? Because you've got family past in Southampton.
Well, Portsmouth were always my first team. I went to see them as about a 7-year-old in a floodlight game and supported them ever since.
And then, so was it school football really that was the most important thing you really get into your football, or was it watching Portsmouth?
Oh, no, it's schools football. I always preferred playing rather than watching. It's only in the latter years, after giving up, that I spent more time watching. But yeah, I played at school from under 11 upwards, really. And played Gosport schools over the years as well.
And what school was that?
What school?
Yeah.
Privett. Went to Privett after Stone Lane.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny enough that it was in the same year as Graham Wake, Steve Boswell, and Peter Wall, who ended up being chairman at the same time as we were all playing.
Do you think those players like Graham Wake, that you were all together from such a young age, was a big reason why you had so much success? That you essentially knew how you played from such a young age. You knew, you were all close. There was no time when you were in the first team where you needed to sort of mix together or get used to each other.
I think it was good to have that understanding, but you also had some great players, local players like Tony Mahoney. John Horse came along. There was some really good Mark Foster, some really talented Gosport guys. In fact, when we were at school, Pete Mullis, I think he was fresh out of teacher training. It was his first school, I believe.
Yeah,
And
well,
he straight away became our football coach there as well. So it was bizarre that, you know, when we sort of left school, we ended up all playing in the same side.
hmm was he the one that first introduced you into Gosport?
Well, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I think it was more about Arthur Windsor. I used to play on a Sunday side for a team called Wessex when I was a 14, 15-year-old. And the guy in charge was a Fareham man, a guy called Jim Warren. And he was keen on bringing players on. And he took a few of us up to Reading for trials. And I ended up signing on schoolboy forms for Reading and training up there in the summer holidays. Because it was a small club, we basically trained with the first team. And it was after pre-season training that I knew Arthur Windsor when I came back. I was, 15 then? And I knew Arthur Windsor, who was then one of the coaches at Boro. And he said, why didn't you come along for training? And so that's how it really started.
And you mentioned about training with the first team. Do you think that helps more when you train with the first team and those players that better? You're watching constantly and learning with these players rather than just playing with your own sort of peers in a sense.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's important for the junior sides to do. It's difficult in a big club when you've got dozens of players, but when you're in smaller clubs, I think it's really important for the juniors to train alongside the first team and reserves to get a sort of not only just about football, but a bit of, you know, community spirit in amongst the team. I think it really helps to bring juniors on.
Do you think that'd be a big factor in the success of the Centre of Excellence now at Gosport? Whether they make sure to make each team close to each other and that they're working together all the time rather than it's a separate entity?
I think it's a great idea. Great idea. Mm-hmm. It really is.
Now, you talked about going on to Gosport, and then in 1970, when you were 16, you made your debut for the Boro Reserves.
Yes.
Now, I do have a embarrassing story
that
was said to me by Peter Mallis. He said that you were together in your first Boro Reserves game. And he was quite an experienced player, and that he was your teacher.
Yes.
And he said he remembers sitting next to you in the changing room. And he said you looked a bit nervy, but apparently you turned around to him and your first initial reaction was to go, apparently you said a Peter, sir, to him. And then apparently all the dressing room wouldn't let it go, and that they never forgot how your first ever game that you called Peter Mallis, sir.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Yeah, I've forgotten that. yeah, you're right. The dressing room roared in laughter. Yeah, God, I've forgotten that.
Did you ever make the mistake again?
I tried not to. I can't remember if I did or not, but I certainly tried not to because I got a right ribbing, and so did Pete, I think.
Now, did you ever do it at school where you accidentally called him Peter instead of sir?
I probably did, but I got told off if I had.
Also, that was another big factor, you feeling comfortable that reserve side. You may have been nervous at the start, but having someone like Peter, who was an experienced player at the club, having him and someone you knew already made it a bit easier, and then along with Graham Wake in that side.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, when I first started playing for the reserves, there was guys like Phil Gunter, the ex-Pompey player, in there. So we had quite a lot of experience. It was really good because the older players really made me feel welcome and comfortable. In fact, all over the years at Boro, it's been a fabulous. All my time at Boro, the atmosphere and the friendship has been outstanding.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's also a big thing for Dan Wooden. I remember when I spoke to him when he just signed, he said football hadn't felt the same since he left, and one of the big things was that dressing room closeness and how it always felt very close, tight community within Gosport Football Club. And it may have been lost in the last couple of years, but that's certainly something that the chairman's trying to definitely get back.
Yeah, I'm really impressed that McGuinness he's come back, or has joined Pompey. It really, just in the few months he's been there, it seems like it's a revolution. It's great to watch.
Do you think a lot of the work over the summer also helped build up attendances and bring a bit more success? I know last season there was a bit of a slight disappointment with maybe attendances could have been a bit high. Do you think the work over the summer with the food bank and all this promotion of the Centre of Excellence, do you think this will certainly start driving up the crowds? I mean, you've said about how the first ever game of the Summer League was in front of 1,000 people. I think I've heard previous things about the last game of the season against Salisbury when Boro promoted was in front of 1,500 people.
Yeah. Yeah, we in those days we had a couple of friendly games against Pompey. Mm-hmm. I remember one night we played Pompey in a friendly with the likes of Chris Kamara and Foster playing, and Clive Green and a few others playing for Pompey. There was about 2,000 people there. Mm-hmm. So if they could replicate maybe some games like that occasionally, some friendlies, crowds would pour in, certainly. But hopefully this season, with some really good work in the community, really impressed with what they've been doing. And hopefully it will drive the crowds up this year. I'll certainly try to get as many games as I can, whereas in the past I've sort of just gone once or twice or 3 times.
Yeah. Do you think maybe Portsmouth and to a lesser extent maybe Southampton could do a bit more in a sense that trying to make friendlies with Gosport and maybe even haven't? Because I guess in the Gosport area it's quite difficult. You've got a difficult competition. You've got Havant one part, you've got Portsmouth, then you've got Southampton as well. They're 3 quite big clubs in the area.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's incumbent on professional clubs like Southampton and Portsmouth to support the local teams. And I know they can't do it every month with their league fixtures, but maybe once a season, at the end of the season, pre-season. It used to happen more often. I've not heard of it happening at all in the last few years.
Do you think the COVID-19 situation will help? Because, of course, travelling restrictions and other things where Portsmouth probably would do a bit further travelling to do games, that these local teams they don't have to go far. The costs are not as much as rather than you would have to go maybe all the way up north or somewhere.
Well, COVID's been a nightmare for the whole country, isn't it? So, I don't think until that's out of the way, I don't even think the crowds will be going back. It'll be interesting to see how the new season starts. The way things are going, there may not even be crowds in August, September. Impossible to say at the moment.
Do you think the league shouldn't start until the crowds come in, or is it something where league should start, but there should be compensation for something like the FA or even the government?
Yeah, it would be good to see the government. I know that they've got to shell out huge amounts of money across all sorts of fronts with arts and business, social security, but it would be nice if some of the smaller clubs, maybe like ours, that were struggling, if we were struggling financially, or the ones that are struggling financially, would get some sort of help. Because I'm sure there's a lot of lower league clubs that really, really struggle without crowds coming in.
Mm-hmm. And so, going back to your career, you played there in the reserves from 1970 for 2 seasons as a 16-year-old. How did you find it? Was it a shock going from school football to then reserves team football?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was 69. And I played for a couple of seasons. But yeah, the standard was obviously better, and it was certainly a lot harder. You had guys that just because you were 15, they didn't pull out of tackles, Yes, but it was a big step up, but it was one I really enjoyed. Really enjoyed.
Was there, in that way you said like the high tackles and that, there was that full force. Was there a moment you doubted yourself as a player going into that you couldn't make it at that level?
Yeah, plenty of times. Yeah, definitely. I never that confident, but once you run out on the pitch, I think we all had pre-game wobbles and nervousness. But I think it's strange, once you get out on that pitch, you tend to concentrate on the game and blank stuff out, really.
Do you think that's when it was made easier, when you had players that you knew from such a young age, like Graham Waite, or you had people who were older but you knew them, like Peter Matters, those situations where it was the nerves really hit? That really came into fruition.
Yeah, without a doubt. Playing alongside guys that you'd played with or known for years. I mean, Graham Waite, what a great little midfielder. He always gave Graham. I never saw Graham give less than 110%. Steve Boswell, talented forward. There's Pete Mull as well. Pete was just probably, alongside Richie Goldberg, the best two centre forwards I've ever played with.
And then, so you then into local league football. You played for 3 teams. It was John Peel, 3 Tons, and Wanderers. What was the reason why you moved back to local league football? And
well, about 17, 18, I discovered girls and booze. And football became a little bit, and maybe it was confidence level as well, a little bit less important. So, and I can't remember exactly why, but that's my distant memory. And some of my good friends were playing local leagues, so I thought I'd just go back there, take pressure off really, and do a bit of local league for a few years. Well, I never thought about going back to Boro, although it was always my first love. I do regret probably going back now, but that's in the past. And I think it was Tony Brickwood, who leant over the fence once at Boro when I was playing outside pitch and said, I'm sure it was, and said, come back training. So I did.
If you'd stayed at Boro instead of going off and doing other things, you would have maybe been able to play longer or even at a higher level?
Or maybe, I don't know. Probably for other people to judge that one, Sam, not me. But it's a possibility. It's a possibility, I don't know.
Now, you said about your local league. At the time as well, was it a Saturday or Sunday league?
Well, I play Saturdays and Sundays, like most of the Boro players. They play for Gosport on Saturday. And then Sunday, a lot of the players play for Achilles and Wheatsheaf. Those are the 2 main team people play for, but I prefer to play for teams like John Peel, where I had a lot of friends in Bridgebury, so I tend to play for Bridgebury-based sides then.
As you mentioned, a lot of players that you went on to play for played in these local leagues, and it was strong at that time. Do you think that helped when you then went back to Gosport Borough? The gap in quality wasn't as high because you knew these players that you were going to play with, but also played in these local leagues.
Yeah, I knew most of the team when I went back, really. Not everyone, but yeah, most of them. There's still a nucleus of the local players. And I went back, 75, 76. I think it was the season before we won Hampshire League for the first time for decades. And then we went on to win Hampshire League twice, as everybody knows, and then into the Southern League.
Do you think that's probably one of the biggest, not problems or disappointments of non-league football now that these local leagues, which was almost clubs like Gosport relied on to get players from, are not strong now, and that you can't just go to these local leagues, go down to see a local Sunday team and pick and go, these can be our next, that can be our future team.
Yeah, I think it's a crying shame that the local leagues, I'm not sure how many Sunday leagues there are these days, but there used to be 3 or 4 Saturday leagues and over 10, 11, 12 Sunday leagues. And it's a crying shame because these, in a lot of cases, these leagues, these teams were feeders for certainly for juniors and leading on to reserves and first team.
Do you think there's any particular reason why there was a downfall of these local leagues?
Well, the obvious thing comes to mind where computers and computer games, and my grandson, he plays a little bit of football with his mates from school, but he will spend a lot of time on a computer playing computer games in his spare time. Lots of time, too much time, really. I'm sure there's many reasons, but it's got to be up there. It's got to be up there, though.
Yeah, and do you think Gosport's trying to almost get that idea back with that link with, I can't remember which college it is for now, I'll have to get it up, with the Centre of Excellence, that you can go to a college, there's the look around local league sides to bring players in. Do you think the encouragement to say that there is now that step ladder to get to a semi-professional club? Or maybe, there's a lot of media talk saying how hard it is always to get in a football team, professional football team, or a non-league side.
Yeah, I think that's one of a number of ideas. It's a great idea. Mm-hmm. It is a shame that there's not so many divisions now in the local league. So any ideas to actually get younger players more interested and show them that there's a stepping stone to greater things, it's got to be applauded.
Mm-hmm. Do you think initiatives like that will also get rid of a stigma around non-league football? Because young players, they see the likes of Southampton or Portsmouth, and you've got to aim for the Premier League or a Championship side, and anything less than that is you sort of not made it. And the idea that you only get scouted at a young age, so there's all those news stories about 4-year-olds being signed by Arsenal or Chelsea or Manchester United, and that you'll be released at a young age, and that if you don't get in early, you'll never make it in football.
Yeah, I think there's a certain amount of that. There's instant. There's a lot. Well, when we were kids, we just wanted to play. That was all we were interested in, is playing. And as you got older, you obviously wanted to play to the best of your ability. But professional sides do sign up kids these days so much younger than they used to. Across the board, it's almost like they'll sign them up because they're afraid that another club will sign them, and if they mature into a really good player, they've lost them. Mm-hmm. I don't know, really, Sam. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So, what was the first side in local leagues you played for? Or was it all 3 sides you played at for the same time?
Oh no, my first Sunday team was really Wessex. I think when I was a kid, when I was 14, 15, mm-hmm. There was a thing called the East Hants Youth League. It doesn't exist now. The teams from Portsmouth area, Horndean, Meon Valley, Botley, in that sort of area, played in a Sunday league. So that was my first.
So you played with that alongside the school team. What was more important, do you think, for your development? Was it the school side, or was it the local Sunday league side?
I think it's a bit of both, really. Mm-hmm. And certainly when you get to like 16, you start playing in men's league, and that whether it's at Boro in like Hampshire League or at Gosport League level. It improves. I think it improves your skill level. I think it also improves your mental strength because you have guys screaming at you, trying to intimidate you because you're 15, 16. And I'm sure we've all the guys who have played at 15, 16 against men have had that at some stage because they're trying to put you off your game. So it's multifaceted, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you would say school development would like help the skill, but almost said Sunday League helps the toughen you up for that.
Definitely.
When you're you go in at the deep end, essentially, it's not a shock. You know how to deal with it.
Yeah, definitely. Without a doubt.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting as well that I find a lot of the players I've spoken to on this podcast series, a lot of them talk about how important school football was to the development of them as a player, and that was almost essentially the moment and avenue into Gosport or other teams at that level. Do you think school football has reduced in importance now? It might be, again, with, as we mentioned, about clubs signing younger, but do you think school football is not seen as important anymore?
I don't think so. I think, I mean, I can only speak from my own experience, but I think school football is important because school football is normally the first football you play before you get found or get invited along to the likes of Gosport or Fareham or Portsmouth Youth or Southampton. So I think it's hugely important in your development.
Yeah. So then, in 1974, you've rejoined Gosport. So you talked a bit about a conversation you had with who about rejoining Boro?
Tony Brickwood, I think it was, if I remember rightly. I mean, it's a long time ago now. I was playing an outside pitch at Privett Park when Tony Brickwood, who was then reserve team manager, reserve team manager, I'm sure, leant over and said, "You can fancy coming back do some training?" So I said, "Yeah, okay." So I got in touch with him and went back training, and the rest is history, really.
Mm-hmm. Was there anything else except him convincing you? Was there anything you sort of got that bug to go back to a high level? You were playing at local Sunday League and you thought, I'm better than this? Or was it just because you were asked to do it?
Well, I've never thought I was better than it, to be honest. But when Tony asked, I thought I had missed playing in enclosure, and enjoyed my year or two. I think it was season and a half or whatever, with the reserves. And I think I might have played a first team game when they were short. So yeah, it's something that I thought about, and I might not have pursued it unless Tony had invited me. I don't know.
So right place at the right time. So now you joined Gosport at the start of essentially the golden era for Gosport Borough. There were Tony Brickwood. Did he go up to the first team management at the same time you went up there?
I think when I joined, it was a season before we won the Hampshire one. I think, if I'm right, Brian Mesher was. I seem to remember Brian Mesher there. I'm not sure if that's the time Brian was there. Charlie Howard had finished and Tony Higman had finished. I think Brian Mesher came in.
Yeah, Brian Mesher came in before Tony Brickwood and Pete Edgar.
Yeah. Well, I remember Brian Mesher, quite a volatile guy, good manager. And I remember him at half time when we weren't playing very well, throwing cups of tea across the changing room. He was fairly, I'd say uptight, but fairly excitable manager.
Did you see that style of management, or did you see the softer approach? Because I know, for example, John Hawes spoke about when one of the reasons, the sort of turning point why he left Gosport was that Brian Messer had a go at one of the senior players, and he thought it was uncalled for, and that was this someone he wants to play for? You didn't care about that style of management?
I didn't like the style of management that will call players out in front of others, particularly. And criticism is fine, but for me, it's always got to be constructive criticism. If you want to blast a player, do it after the game on your own and have it out, but don't do it in the change room in front of everybody else, unless it's constructive. That's my view.
Mm-hmm. Was Tony Brickwood and Pete Edgar, were they the soft kind of manager, or was one like essentially the good cop and bad cop?
That's a good question. I think sometimes it was good cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
I think Pete would voice his opinion sometimes, and Tony would stroke but that's if I remember rightly. It was they were good. They were a great pairing. They really complemented each other well, I thought.
Do you think also the idea that they were both ex-players? I think Tony Brickwood was even captain of the Gosport Borough. That experience, they knew the club, they knew it in and out. They knew essentially what you guys were going through, young players coming into this side.
Yeah, they knew what made the club tick and what made players tick, and they were really the sort of glue that held it all together, I think.
And then also,
it really helped that the majority of us were Gosport people. There was Mark Foster, Stevie Boswell, Graham Waite, Pete, Tom Homey, Kevin Warren, and of course, who could forget Tony Milne?
Do you think the closeness, or we all knew what the community meant, was that more important than your skill as a bunch of players? Like, you knew what it meant. You basically grown up in this town. You'd all grown up with the same experiences, and you knew each other so well that when you went on a football pitch for the first time as a team under Gosport Borough, you knew what to do. Yeah,
I think it really, it helped that we'd sort of grown up in schools football and we were at the same school together. It certainly had a good understanding of how each other plays and what we can expect from each other. And we were not skillful. I'm sure we weren't the most skillful side, certainly when it came up into the Southern League. But we came third in that first season in the Southern League, and we did that mainly through hard work, some luck, of course, hard work, and we had a couple of good goal scorers. Richie Colbert scored, 20 odd goals, I think, something like that in the first season. John Hawes was there, he scored goals. But I think that hard work and knowing each other, it really worked well.
What do you think the thing was missing? Because you got third in the Southern League, and it was essentially one step of what is now called the National League. What do you think that side was just missing, that it just missed out? Or was it just, it just wasn't meant to be?
We were playing against sides that were sometimes getting guys that had finished their Football League careers. These guys were being paid, substantial amounts of money, probably 4 or 5 times. Well, they were 4 or 5, sometimes 6 times the amount we were being paid. But then we weren't doing it for the money. We, as a bunch of players, we would have done it. I'm speaking for everybody now, I think. But we would have played for nothing because we just wanted to play for Borough. The money was irrelevant. The money was relevant.
That's definitely a consensus between all the players of that team. They all say the reason, essentially, for the downfall after Golden Period was that players were brought on in different wages, and that fair wages that everyone paid the same is lost.
Yeah, Sam, we probably got enough playing to on a away game to buy fish and chips, have a couple of beers.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. And nobody, no, you'd never ever hear anybody complain at all. It was all about the football. It was never about the money.
Mm-hmm.
If it was about the money, guys would have gone to the likes of Folkestone and Dover and Minehead and Aylesbury.
And then, of course, you mentioned the two successive league titles. I don't know if you've heard from previous podcasts, but I'll mention it again. If people don't remember or haven't heard it, it was the first league title in 31 seasons. Do you remember at the time there'd been a lot of pressure when there was a hint or thought, Gosport could win the league here?
Yeah, I suppose there was really. Never really thought much about it, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think when we were closing in on the season, I think there was an expectation that we'd do it. And I suppose there's pressure because we hadn't won a Div 1 since in the 40s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, you're talking about 30 odd years without winning a Hants Div 1 title. So, yeah, we probably did all feel it, to be honest. I can't remember, but yeah, I'm sure looking back, I'm sure we did.
So, the first one, and then you won the second one. Did you find it easier the second time around to win the next league title? Because you'd done it before, you knew what you had to do.
Yeah, well, I might be speaking out of turn, but from a personal point of view, yeah, I think it was easier. I don't know if there was much pressure as the first one.
Mm-hmm.
My memory is that people, when we went on a good run, that people were sort of half expecting it, and we already won Div 1 season title the year before. So I'm not sure there was so much pressure because it'd already been won,
Mm-hmm. I mean, when I was speaking to this Peter Mullis talked about some of the former players who'd been at the club during that first one that would remind him, when they won it in the mid-40s. Do you think maybe as a younger player you didn't maybe hear as much about it because you were a younger player compared to someone like Peter Mullis, who was one of the old guys essentially? He was one of the most experienced players in the side at that point.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd heard about it, I suppose, but I think it never got rammed down our throats that I can't ever remember anybody putting pressure on us to say we haven't won it for 30 odd years. We've got to do it this year. It's close. I can't remember any of that, to be honest.
Do you think that was good management by Tony Brickwood and Pete Edgar, that they made sure that there wasn't pressure on you guys when you walked out on that pitch to think, oh God, there's a lot of expectation now?
Yeah. No, I think I've always said that they were a good, management team, and I'm sure that they did take a lot of that pressure off us. They had a way that they wanted us to play, and they probably shielded us from a lot of stuff.
Do you remember the match you won the first league in?
Was it Pirelli?
No, Swathing Athletic, 1-0 victory. You were almost going to say it, weren't you?
Yeah. It was either Pirelli or Swathing. So Pirelli was the 3-0 win in the second year, was it?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. I don't remember. My brother-in-law was about 13 at the time, and in the first year of the Southern League, he used to come along to the home games. In the first year of the Southern League, he got a scrapbook up together. So I've got a scrapbook that I have to look at occasionally when I get off of him, and I need to get some facts and figures, which details the whole of that Southern League season. And the last couple of months of the season before he won the league for the second time. And it's quite interesting to see all the stats and some of the match reports that you just have forgotten over the years.
Do you think that's the adrenaline of the whole experience that, some players talk about when you in the high pressure games, they don't even remember it because the adrenaline going through them playing.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, looking back on it, you just want to get out there and play, don't you? You don't think about losing. You just get out there as a team, get stuck in, and do your best. But I remember that the Gosport Mayor, after I think we won the first Div 1 for the first season of the two. I think we were down at the town hall with the mayor. We all became very minor celebrities. It was a strange time.
To be fair, a lot of players have said about how after those 2 league titles, a lot of people on the street would just come up to them and want to talk about football to them.
Yeah.
About Gosport.
Yes. Yeah, they did. There was a lot of interest locally in the club then, because we won the league twice in a row, with basically teams from players from the local area, and we had the addition of, because there was a couple of other players that were involved with Tony Callahan and Roger Buckland, also local players, and the likes of Trevor Williams and John Hawes played. Great additions to the team. It was strange days.
Do you think people knowing about what you were doing at the club, did that add pressure, or did it help you? That was it either seen as, oh God, if we have a bad game or anything like that, or bad result, people know about it because everyone's talking about us, or was it people think we're going places? That's the confidence we need to keep going.
Yeah, I think it was that it was nice that there was a buzz about, not just about the club but about the town as well. Mm-hmm. And like you say, people would want to talk about it. Even people that you didn't necessarily know would have a chat to you at work or socially, and want to find out some details or info about how did you feel, what was the team like, what was the dressing room like, how were the managers, and so it went on really. And because we had a chairman, Pete Ward, who bizarrely was in the same year at school at Privett as Steve, Graham and myself. Mm-hmm. It was quite a Privett connection there along with Pete.
And then, so of course, after that second league title, you were elected to the club was elected to the Southern League.
Yes.
Was that a big moment for you? Did you think that was bigger? Which was bigger, the 2 league titles, or was it moving up to essentially a semi-professional league, being close to the top division of non-league football?
Yeah, that's a good question. Looking back in it, I can't remember at the time, but looking back in it, I think probably winning those 2 league titles in a row was a massive achievement for a team that hadn't won it for 30 odd years, I think. Mm-hmm. There was excitement at going into the Southern League and stepping up the division and all the things that went with it, skill level, and we would be playing against players that were ex-pros. So I think for us too, when we won it 2 years in a row, probably for me.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, was there a bit of a shock when you went up to the Southern League of how different it was? Or because you as a team had been together for quite a while now?
Yeah, we'd been together as a team, for about 3 years really. Mm-hmm. 2 to 3 years. So the standard was obviously a lot higher and it was tougher. Mm-hmm. And the travelling was more arduous. But I think we settled into it quite well. And I go back again to the fact that the nucleus of the players had played together. I think probably the team had played together for at least a season. Most of us played together for 2-3 years, and that really helped. Really helped, and we all worked hard. There were no prima donnas in our team.
Mm-hmm.
It was a real good side. Worked hard together. We had a couple of outstanding players, obviously. Richie Colbert scored goals like there's no tomorrow. Gary Juriev's probably the best right back I've ever played with. Tony Mooney, fantastic centre-half. Long serving, read the game well. Great captain to work with. So I think that was a nucleus of it was a good side. We worked hard together, and we weren't the most skillful. But when you think first season up, we came third, it was a massive achievement.
Mm-hmm.
Massive achievement.
Do you think you said about how good the side? In the end, actually, that first season, it was more the travelling that had a bigger impact on the side rather than the actual football quality.
The travelling for me was a real pain because I was never good travelling on coaches anyway. And we were like we could be playing Dover away in midweek, mm-hmm. and then we could be playing Minehead or somewhere away Saturday. And that was really the thing that got through to me badly. I was never a good traveller by coaches. And I don't know if other players felt like that. I don't know.
Did that affect your job, have to do that much travelling and to long distances?
Sorry, say again, Sam?
Did the long travel affect your job, especially during midweek games, like you said?
Well, they were pretty good. I worked at Fleetlands then, and they were pretty good. Management were pretty good with that. I didn't have any major problems. I did feel guilty sometimes, but no, I'd say I was one of the luckier ones because obviously there would be other players that employers weren't quite so good with.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that helps with your footballing confidence or quality when you have an employer who is not making you feel guilty or anything like that, going off and playing football, forcing you to say, well, if you're going to take this off, you've got to do that? Yeah,
definitely, because that, if the employer's putting pressure on you, that's never good. It creates a bit of stress and bad feeling, and it's the last thing you want really when you're trying to concentrate on football.
Mm-hmm. And then, so your first win in the Summer League was against Andover. That's correct, yes?
Yeah.
Do you remember the score of that game?
Sorry, Sam, say again?
You remember the score of that game?
2-0.
2-0. It was at Privett Park, correct?
Yes.
So it was with over 1,000 people. You said previously about the Portsmouth pre-season friendlies.
Yes.
About 2,000 people. But was that quite a nerve-wracking thing to see 1,000 people turn up to Privett Park?
Yeah, it was actually. It's strange, isn't it? Once the game gets going, you don't think about it. You just crack on. But yeah, when you run out to 1,000 people, it's quite daunting, but also exhilarating at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you thrived under that? More people watching you?
Yeah, I think everybody did. To be honest, I don't think anybody would prefer to play in front of 10 or 20 people.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was good. It was good times.
And then, so, am I correct in saying in 1980 you then retired from Gosport or football?
Well, I played that season, and because of the travelling by coach, I really didn't want to do another season travelling by coach. So I was going to sort of say retire. I was going to step down to Gosport League. Mm-hmm. But Pete Miles was the reserve team manager that season, mm-hmm. and if I remember rightly, he asked me to stay on and play for the reserves, which I did. And I think I had a first team game or something when they were short. So But yeah, I stayed on to play for the reserves for a year then, and I would have carried on playing for him as well, because that was Hampstead 1 then, I think. Pretty sure it was Hampstead 1. So a good standard. But they Gosport scrapped the reserves that end of that season. Unfortunately.
Reasons for scrapping the reserves?
I have no idea. I have no recollection. Pete Mullis will know, being the manager at the time. I presume it was to cut costs, but I can't specifically say that was the reason.
Mm-hmm. Let me just have a quick look. I might previously put it here. Yeah, it was due to cost.
Yeah. I guess the first team, they were probably paying the first team a little bit more that second season we were in there, having done so well. And that probably pulled on the finances.
Were you a bit frustrated by that? Was that a frustrating thing to find out that football was just taken away from your feet?
I'm a bit fatalistic about things like that. It was just one of those things.
Yeah.
Would I prefer to carry on playing for the reserves? Yes, definitely. We had a good little reserve team. Pete Mullis was a great manager. But hey, it is what it is, isn't it? I just shrugged my shoulders and went back to Gosport League. What
teams did you play for then in the Gosport League?
Ridgeway in Gosport League, Gosport Saturdays.
Was it the same sort? Was the league to the same quality you remembered when you first were in those local leagues?
Yeah, it was still pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there was 2 or 3 divisions. They might have been reduced by 1, but yeah, no, it's still good standard. There've been so many really, really good players over the years from Gosport area, Fareham area, that never really got a chance to play at a higher level, or didn't have the application to play at a high level or the interest, which is a real shame, because there were some really talented guys over the years to come out of our area.
Were there any players you tried to encourage to go to Gosport, or you said to Gosport, look at this player?
I suppose there was over the years. Yeah, I can't remember any specific circumstances, but I'm sure I did. Yeah, I'm sure I did. I mean, I don't know if you know that Gary Jurieff went to Pompey.
Yes.
Well, I think it was a season. Pretty sure it was a season. Well, Gary didn't get a fair crack of the whip over there. He was a better player. He was a better player than some of the guys in the first team, I think, over there. Yeah, but I don't think he made a first team debut.
I'll have to look it up. Someone said about Gary Jury, I can't remember, I have to find it out, that they said if he can't make it into the Portsmouth side, then none of us in the whole Gosport area would ever be able to.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So they couldn't believe how he wasn't accepted in.
Yeah, I think basically, and Gary might tell you the same, that I think he was treated as an outsider a little bit, and displaced one of the older players in the reserves that didn't go down too well, and which is a real shame, because when you guys came to Gosport, we welcomed him with open arms. The guys, when John Halls joined and Trevor Williams joined, they just joined the family. There was no backbiting, there was no jealousy. It was just, and that's how it should be.
Do you think that was more due to like a non-league stigma? That he was only a non-league player?
Yeah.
They were league players.
Yeah, I'm sure. Without a doubt.
Do you think that's always been a problem for non-league players trying to get into the top, essentially the professional leagues? That there's always been that stigma that they're only from non-leagues, so they can't be as good as us.
Yeah, possibly. There's that thinking, and that the players from non-league have to work twice as hard as the guys that are there already. I don't know. It's a good point. Yeah, quite possibly, yes.
Did you ever see that anywhere? in any other scenarios, or was it only Gary Jury you saw that in?
I think it was only Gary, really. I can't remember any other scenarios where any players went to professional clubs. I mean, there was a time when I think Southampton were looking at Gary, and I'm not sure. No, Pete. There was some mention a little bit earlier in Pete's career about Southampton. Tone Mahoney might have been looked at, but no, I think nobody got as far as Gary did.
Yeah,
that way.
And then, so how long did you play after you left Gosport on Sunday leagues? Was it just?
I played for about 5 years. I think 4 or 5 years. I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Played for Bridgmead, and we had some successful season. But I was playing with my friends, a lot of guys I knew I'd played with for years before, and it was good. It was good days.
Mm-hmm.
But do I regret giving up earlier than I did at Boro? Yes, I do. Yeah. I can't. I do. I look back at it now. I think I was pretty stupid and should have just knuckled down and got used to travelling.
Do you think you would have ever got used to travelling, or was it something?
Well, I think I got sort of used to the travelling the first year,
mm-hmm.
but I think after the coaches, they started to use trains. I think
mm-hmm.
So that would have been a lot better for me.
Yeah. Was there anyone at the club at the time trying to convince you to change your mind, or anyone even after you did leave? Did someone come to you saying, "Look, you're good enough to play. You can get over this"?
No, they were probably glad to see you back at me, Sam, wasn't they? No, I can't remember, honestly. I honestly can't remember, Sam. Can't remember. No, I can't remember. I just remember the Southern League season was a fabulous season. We had some good results. We had some really good results. We had some great wins. I mean, I'm looking at a list now that I've got in front of me to jog my memory. And, I know we had some poor results. We lost 6-2 away to Folkestone. We lost 4-1 away to Dover, but they won the league. So but we also had some really good home results. We beat Folkestone 5-2. We beat Canterbury 4-0. We beat Tunbridge 5-0.
Mm-hmm.
Ashford 3-0. So it was Eddleston 4-0. It was a right old mixed season, really, but I think we fully deserved to come third. Folkestone, for me, was a really bad game. I remember giving a penalty away, but I didn't actually touch the player, he just dived.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and much Tony Milne's dismay, I think Tony Mahoney got sent off that game. But I think not before I scored an own goal past Tony Milne, who was none too impressed as Tony would stand there with his hands on his hips, look at daggers at you. So, but we had some great results too.
Mm-hmm. And
so I was going to say, probably the most disappointing game that season
mm-hmm.
was when we played Almondsbury Greenway away.
Mm-hmm.
And a few of the players will remember this, that I think it was a game that Graham broke his leg. It was in that Southern League season. This was in the FA Vars quarter final.
Mm-hmm.
We were 3-1 up with 65 minutes. On 65 minutes, when they scored I think it was a penalty, make it 3-1.
Yeah.
And then somehow, and I still don't know how to this day, they scored 2 goals, 88th and 89th minute,
mm-hmm.
to take it to extra time, and we lost 4-3. That was quarterfinals.
Yeah,
I
might have it here.
Yeah, that was the most disappointing game I can remember in my life.
I'm trying to. Yeah, Almondsbury. Yeah, FA Vars quarter-final replay.
Yeah, we drew 1-1 home, and then went away to Bristol.
Mm-hmm.
And we won that game, and we should have won that game. We were one step away from Wembley.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, when you talk about all this, do you think it was a lot of, it was just that one last step you can get there, in a sense, you were almost one step off the top division in non-league football, one step off making it to Wembley. Is that a bit frustrating when you look back at, or do you think because where the club started and where it ended up in that time period, you don't look back at it with too much envy?
No, I don't look back with too much envy. I think when you look at our side and you look at other teams who were paying, some ex-pros, not all of them, but a few ex-pros in there, lots of money. We played to, I think, probably to our ability, to maximum of our ability. Getting third in that league. I mean, Dover were an outstanding team. They beat us 4-1 away. So I think it was second or third game at the end of the season. They beat us 2-0 home early in the season. They deserved that league title. And I think with the players we had, I think we did unbelievably well to come up from Hampstead 1 to third place in the Southern League. Unbelievably well. And that was built on hard work, and a good team ethic.
Mm-hmm. And going back to the Sunday League thing, playing career.
Yeah.
What were the reasons? What year did you stop that? Or can you remember a year or age you stopped playing Sunday League football?
Yeah, well, I stopped playing. Certainly stopped playing. I think I stopped playing Sunday football before then. Mm-hmm. But I stopped playing Saturday football in about 85, I think it was. So I played about 4 seasons after the reserve closed down.
Were there any particular reasons why you stopped playing?
I think I was just getting too old, Sam.
Yeah.
I played a lot of squash in those days, and I still play squash now. And I was picking up injuries and not being able to play squash for like 2 weeks, Mm-hmm. And the injuries were taking longer and longer to get over as the older I got. So I thought, I think everybody comes to a point where they realise it's probably time to hang your boots up.
Mm-hmm. Did you start preferring squash over football?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, when I was in playing, once I'd left the reserves. Yeah. And there was quite a few players in the team that would play at Leon Solent. Richie Colbert was a member, Tony Milne, Roger Buckland. There's a nucleus of players that played quite a lot of squash in those days. So we had quite a great, social life up there as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, we've gone through all your career. Could you now, a part of our series, we always ask everyone who comes on to name their top 3 players they played with at Gosport. So, have you got an idea?
I was afraid you were going to ask me that. That is so tough. As I struggled to pick out 3 players, but I'll pick out 3 players, but then I'm going to name a few others because, obviously, Gary Juriev, as I said earlier, probably the best right back I've ever played with. Very talented, scored goals. Could have played as a right winger really. But he was a good defender as well.
Now we do have to quickly also, before you go on to the next player, mention about was his little incident with Richie Colbert about tripping him up.
Oh yeah. That was the funniest. That was the funniest moment I remember. Is we were playing Hounslow away. And I'm not sure when that was. Let's have a look. See if I can see Hounslow. But anyway, it was a really muddy pitch, and Gary was known to just get in front of the mirror just to check his hair was all right before the game. Briefly, and all the players would jibe him about it. Well, we were running out on this muddy pitch at Hounslow in all white when Richie Colbert came up behind him and intentionally tripped him over. And Gary will remember this for sure. He fell flat on his face in the mud, covered it, right up the front of him, and proceeded to get up and chase Richie around the pitch. Well, we were in fits. We were in stitches. And I'm sure there's a few players that remember that one.
Well, I am actually interviewing Gary soon, so I will have to bring it up, see if he remembers. He might try and say he's forgotten it all.
He'd like to forget it, yeah. It was. I'm just looking at this fixture list, and it was Hounslow in February.
Mm-hmm.
So the pitch was really muddy. We ended up losing that 1-0, but we had a good laugh. That was for sure.
Was it something he always kept? Was he always careful now on a muddy pitch, knowing that someone could trip him up?
He probably looked behind him a lot more. But Rich was the eternal joker.
Mm-hmm.
Eternal joker. Yeah, and he's one of the players. I mean, Rich Colbert and Pete Mullis, centre forwards, unbelievable. They should have both played at a high level than Hampshire League, Southern League. Rich, I don't know what he scored, 20-odd goals, 28 goals or 30 goals that season, Southern League. Great player. And of course, Tony Maloney. Tony's up there. He's up there with some of the best centre halves in non-league football, I'd say, and a great captain to go with it. But there were so many great players. John Hawes, exceptional forward. We had Tony Milne was probably the best goalkeeper I'd played with, and it was funny really with Tony because he always fancied himself as a centre forward. I don't know if you're interviewing him, but he might be able to remember some of this. That in training, he fancied himself as a centre forward, so he would never play in goal, and he caused more injuries, I think, in training than we had on the pitch on a Saturday. He was so aggressive in training. It was hilarious. Hilarious.
Defender near him at the time.
You didn't know if Tony, and I think Pete Mullis mentioned this. If Tony Milne called for the ball, you got out of the way because you knew he was coming through with his foot up. Because bless him, I think earlier in his career, I think he broke his leg twice in the same place, I believe. Ask him, and he'll tell you. But yeah, great keeper, great keeper. But I could go on with players. Matt Foster, talented. He played far underneath his ability. Kev Warren, Wakey. Wow. What can you say about Graham? 100%, 110% every single game. Roger Buckland read the game so well, Roger. Trevor Williams, he came along, left-footed, an exceptional left foot, ex-amateur Welsh international. He slotted in like he'd been there forever. There's so many good players. Stevie Boswell's a great player. It's just, it's so difficult to name three, but probably Rich Colbert and Pete Mullis up front, Gary Julian, Tony Maloney.
It is the question that stumps everyone.
It is.
Well, that's all we have time for, unfortunately, on this episode of the Privett Park Legends podcast. I would like to thank Neville Woodd for joining us. Did you enjoy yourselves?
I did. I'm not sure I'm a legend, Sam, but thank you very much.
There's a lot more than other players can say.
Thanks for the opportunity to have a chat to you and talk about some of the old times, which were outstanding and will always live in my memory. And I wish all the best to Sean Gale and the team in the new season.
Yeah,
and I'll have to see some of them.
I think you can certainly count yourself as a Boro legend with 2 league titles. I don't think most players could say that about their career.
Thanks, Sam.